Mhm.
I like the robot worlds, you know. It's like I like driving around with Google trying to like tell me where to go and stuff, and I just complain to her like, no, Miss Google, that's not how you go.
What?
No,
You tell someone they're doing it wrong?
that
No.
road doesn't go anywhere. Oh, we like to tell Evie can do a really good Amazon voice, you know, or Google or whatever. She can really mirror them very well. Like, the number you have reached is no longer in service. She can do all of those things. She's always messing around with telemarketers, which is funny at 16. I mean, you know.
I don't know where she gets from.
No one can answer this.
Oh, people are still joining. I think pasting the link into chat maybe helped.
I think so. It seems like it. I mean, like, paste that in there. Next thing you know, I'll click admit a few times.
Hey.
So we might as well wait for another couple of minutes here, a minute or two.
Yeah, when people get going. There's Jeremy.
Oh, I like the picture. The cat looks very unhappy.
Didn't Nick have that as a picture for a while? Nick Mealy? I thought he did.
I don't know. He might have. Well, he's always got the one where he's dressed up as Tim the Enchanter.
Yeah, but before, I mean, you know, we've known him for a long time.
Yeah, I know. Possible. That poor cat.
We got lots of people. I think it's probably good to start.
All right. Well, we're recording anyway, so.
All right. I'm going to go on mute.
All righty. I will continue to talk for a few moments. I'm not. I'm just going to introduce Ryan and let him take it because, you know, you need to present something. I have no idea how this is going to look. So, you know, whatever you want to do is great with me. It's half the fun is kind of having a bit of a surprise. So if you want to go ahead and present, I think you're good to go. And then I'll mute myself so that I don't keep interrupting you.
You're talking to me because I'm not paying attention.
Oh,
I assume you're talking
Ryan,
to me.
our wonderful speaker for the day.
Yeah, I usually tune out for these things.
Nah, Kubernetes.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for that fantastic introduction. Yeah, I do have some slides I meticulously
slapped together
here at the last minute. No, I did put it together in my head. Let me figure out how to use my computer.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll just keep chatting and, you know, it'll be fine. I mean, what could go wrong? I mean, this is all volunteer run. Y'all can take it out of my pay. I apologize. Oh, here we go. Never mind. All right. I'm going to mute myself and let me know if you need anything by frantically waving or saying lots of Rich, this doesn't work, or things like that. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it, Rich. And thank you for inviting me to speak, or at least reminding me that I volunteered last month. I've been in the user group meetings the last couple of months, and the topic of Kubernetes keeps coming up. And I know that I've discussed in some of the channels on Slack and in the Cribl community Slack channels and on the Splunk user groups and various other places, you know, what it's like to actually run log stream in Kubernetes. So I thought maybe I'd talk about the journey we're on at SpyCloud right now, and some of the challenges we're facing with Kubernetes and our deployment, and some of the problems we're trying to solve. This is not a formal presentation by any means, so please feel free to ask questions, interrupt, talk over me, tell me I'm wrong, tell me that I have horrible slides or I spelled things wrong, whatever you want to do. It's all cool. So yeah, I'll go ahead and jump into it here. Again, my name is Ryan Saunders. I'm a security engineer at SpyCloud. We're what do? We describe ourselves as a cybersecurity company. We're in the space of providing account takeover and breach notifications to customers, fraud detection, all sorts of fun things. But I don't directly work on any of those cool products. I do security for the security company at SpyCloud. So, and specifically, one of my jobs is security telemetry and logging. Gathering all the logs from our various sprawling cloud environments, endpoints, tool sets, and putting them into the analysis tools. We're using Splunk Cloud today. We also have a number of hosted security tools that we can send data to. Managed security providers are on the roadmap. Lots of different places we want to send data and lots of different things we want to collect. I gave a talk a few weeks ago, a webinar about optimizing performance with Splunk Cloud using Logstream. If you're interested in some of the core challenges we're trying to solve with Cribl, you can check that out. I'll try to find a link and share it. But that, I don't want to go over those core challenges. I think most of you are probably familiar with the problems that a lot of us try to solve with Logstream. But if there are any questions, let me know. So this is actually not my first time deploying Logstream in Kubernetes. The organization I worked for before coming to SpyCloud about 6 months ago, we brought on Cribl, and I thought, hey, Kubernetes, they have a Helm chart. That looks cool. I don't know anything about Kubernetes. And I had a platform team. I was working in security platform team sitting next to me, or virtually anyway, and said, hey, you guys in security, do you want to help us figure out how to do logging and monitoring in Kubernetes? Okay, yeah, I can figure that out. I used to be a platform guy, used to be an infrastructure engineer. I can probably figure out how to translate my experience with containers and doing things with Docker to Kubernetes. And it was really cool because somebody was providing this managed Kubernetes service for me. They were taking care of all of the underlying deployment, the infrastructure, the compute, figuring out node groups for my workers. And it was great. And I came to SpyCloud. The security team here is new. It started about the same time I did, about 6 months ago. And my coworker John is here. Thanks for joining, John. We both started out, and this team is brand new. It's all greenfield, and we have no infrastructure. So, and that includes things like VMs and DNS and just basic tooling. So I'm going to have to build this all up myself. So as we started looking at our environment and decided that we wanted to bring in Logstream, I had a choice. I can build this out the traditional way. Actually, I had three options. I can build it out the traditional way. I can build a bunch of VMs, bootstrap them with things like Terraform, Cloud Init, Ansible, and really create a distributed environment that hopefully is somewhat automated and somewhat consistent. I could go for Logstream Cloud. That was an option that we considered as well. Or I can go back to on-prem and I can do this in Kubernetes. Having just come from doing Kubernetes, I thought it was cool. I really liked the auto scale groups, the ability to quickly scale up and down depending on my log throughput. So I thought, okay, let's do Kubernetes. Turns out having to do a complete Kubernetes deployment on your own, it involves a little more prep and work and knowledge, skills, what have you, than just letting someone else do all the ugly bits for you. So here over the last few months, I've been prepping and planning and learning how to deploy a consistent, dependable Kubernetes environment. And I'm using Elastic Kubernetes service from Amazon. So they're managing the API and the cluster core bits for me. And then I'm managing node groups and all the other pieces, load balancers, ingresses, services, storage. So yeah, that's the background. That's how we ended up deciding to go with Kubernetes. And of course, my logs aren't in order, or my logs. I hope my logs are in order. My slides are not 100% in order here. How do I work this thing? So yeah, what are we trying to achieve? One, I wanted to try something new. I've never really built my own Kubernetes environment from scratch. So that was a real challenge. Most of the services at SpyCloud are in containers or in functions like Lambda functions, running in things like ECS on containers. There's really no traditional web applications here. So understanding these ephemeral type applications, the telemetry they generate, and how to get data out of these tools is really important to me. I've been doing VM type deployments or bare metal deployments for years and really understand that. But now I'm at this organization that is embracing the new way of doing things. And so as a security practitioner and a telemetry guy, I would really want to understand not only what kind of data that these systems are generating, but I want to be able to go to the teams and tell them exactly what I need and how to do it. When I go to a team and ask them for data, tell them they need to do things, I want to pretend like I want to feel like I know what I'm talking about, even if it's just pretending. So running my own tool sets and the tools that I'm asking folks to work on, it helps me build a little confidence in the tools. So let's try Kubernetes. The decision, we came to a decision where, I can either start building out all the automation and the infrastructure to do this on VMs. And really, we're not a huge environment. We're not doing 20 terabytes of data Splunk cloud. So, I don't need tons of workers and tons of VMs, but it is something I still need to build out. I really didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go build a bunch of VMs and write a bunch of Ansible to do it. So if I'm going to be doing a bunch of infrastructure work, I wanted to do this in Kubernetes. And using Kubernetes has the benefit of, in the future, I can add other workloads there and that my team is using, and not really have to go build out new patterns. And honestly, if everything goes wrong and my leader is running Kubernetes and it's solid, I can go build additional worker capacity on VMs. And it's not going to be that big of a deal. I can bail out of workers on Kubernetes. One of the big things that is important to me, coming from an operations background and a DevOps type background, is testing. I don't want to just have one single environment where I'm developing security content, where I'm developing pipelines, routes, trying things and breaking things. I'd like to have at least, ideally, 2 environments, and they need to look exactly the same. So containers are really great for that. All my dependencies are managed in the containers. I can codify all my infrastructure, all my requirements in Terraform, and deploy a Kubernetes cluster just for development or just for testing. Every security detection engineer can get their own environment if they need it. It's really easy to do consistent development environments for everyone. So that was a big reason for going with a solution like Kubernetes. And honestly, just upgrades, maintenance, doing things with a big on-prem system and VMs around bare metal just isn't fun. I would rather spend my time writing detections or doing threat hunting than upgrading Splunk or upgrading workers. That said, Logstream and Cribl, Cribl has really made things easy. Upgrades are, a button click or two. Bootstrapping your workers from your leader can be automated. It's really pretty painless. So this, saying I don't want to deploy a big, complicated, Rube Goldberg machine, it's really not a thing in my experience or from what I've seen with Cribl. It's more, I'm thinking about running Splunk environments and that sort of thing on-prem. So if you want to run, Logstream on-prem and or in your private cloud, on VMs, go for it. It's really not that hard to maintain and upgrade. Let me stop and let me see if there are any questions here before I move on. Okay, so there's definitely some challenges coming from a big on-prem environment. Working with distributed systems like Logstream, Splunk, having heavy forwarders and lots of different data centers. The biggest issue we ran into was circuit outages between data centers or between an on-prem system and maybe a set of Splunk indexers or a set of Logstream workers running in the cloud. And that was what my environment looked for before Spy Cloud. The biggest thing we had to worry about was a circuit going out for anywhere from 10 minutes to 3 days if something was taken down for maintenance over the weekend. But moving to this world where everything is in the cloud for me, I'm running things in various Amazon availability zones. Splunk Cloud is completely out of my hands. I've got to anticipate new outages. And this is kind of a challenge I'm still thinking through, and I hope to get some feedback and dialogue here in this group, once I'm wrapped up here. How do we deal with treating workers like stateful workloads? 95% of the time, there's no issues in my deployment. There's no network issues. AWS is running just fine. Splunk Cloud's running just fine. But when something does break, sometimes it breaks for several hours. I can't lose that data. So as I'm bringing data in from various tools, I'm either pulling data in from APIs or receiving them from things like Splunk Universal Forwarders or HTTP Event Collector. I've got to be able to have some amount of certainty near certainty that I'm not going to lose that data. And so log stream persistent queues are a great solution. But with Kubernetes and things running on pods, a lot of things in Kubernetes, the default is we treat it as ephemeral. We treat it as stateless. They're stateless workloads, meaning we're not persisting that data anywhere. I would love to be able to treat my workers as stateless and ephemeral, but the reality is I want to make sure I don't lose data. It's more important to me that I don't lose data than it is that I just don't care about the infrastructure. So having talked to some other engineers and folks at Cribl, well, maybe I'll give stateful sets a try. Stateful sets in Kubernetes were designed as a concept for managing stateful workloads. I think things like databases, where losing a pod, it matters. That pod needs to come back up in its same state with its same data. If we lose a Kubernetes node, we want that pod to come back up on another node that's healthy. And that's one of the advantages of even doing things in Kubernetes is I don't have to care about the individual nodes, the individual pieces of the infrastructure, or even if an entire availability zone in Amazon goes down, I want those persistent queues and my workers to come back up and flush out. And so that's one of the things I'm experimenting with now and really have had success with and moving to production is using stateful sets for workers.
Hey, Ryan, I don't know where your Kubernetes cluster is running, but do you guys have the support for persistent volume claims in your clusters?
Yes, we're using EKS in Amazon, so we do have support for persistent volume claims. I've run into some challenges with those working across availability zones.
Yes, so you're going to need some paints and some. So I wish Steve was on here. Can we get Steve on here? Like he could answer that question.
Let me try and find him.
Okay, let's see if we can get Steve on here. So we have worked around this challenge.
Okay.
We had the same problem. So our sandbox clusters as well as our demo clusters all run on Kubernetes. And for the demo clusters, we do have some persistent volumes. And yes, the cross availability zones is a challenge, but I don't know specifically what he's done to work around that, but he has worked around that.
Okay.
And I prefer that approach than even the stateful set or, like a daemon set with a host path mount, just because it's utilizing cloud native primitives below the scenes, depending on where you're deploying, whether it's EKS or, for example, in my home cluster that I just put together over the weekend, I'm going to add support for PVCs that are backed by NFS. And so that's kind of the primitive that I would recommend you go towards. And then let's see what happens, what thing breaks after you go that way.
Awesome. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to hear. I'm not here to say that stateful sets are the answer or the best option. One thing that I did find in testing that they are somewhat performant. So if we start collecting a bunch of data there and we need to flush those queues quickly, then we can expect that the ability to read from the disk is fairly quick, where maybe NFS isn't. But for the most part, that's really not an issue for me. As long as that data clears out and makes it to Splunk Cloud or to the destination, then we're all good. So yeah, I'd definitely be interested to hear more details about what you all are doing.
Oh, Steve just arrived.
Steve arrived. Hey, Steve, what did we end up doing to work around our problems with PVCs being availability zone specific? Ryan has also run into that.
Yeah, I think Ryan, I was chatting with you on the community about it at one point.
Yeah.
What we ended up kind of landing on is that you need to use a shared storage mechanism instead of something along the lines of EBS, where it is very AZ specific. So for the leader in EKS, we've kind of recommended EBS, but for doing persistent queues, you really have to do something that's a shared mechanism so that you don't end up having those AZ problems.
So like EFS instead, do they have PVCs that use like EFS instead of EBS?
Yeah. There's a CSI driver just like there is for EBS for EFS. It's a little clunkier in that you have to pre-provision the EFS volume, but it works just as well. We're using it internally for a couple other things as well.
Okay. Yeah, I know we talked about that, and you mentioned that as a solution.
Yeah.
One of the things I struggled a little bit to figure out was as data gets written to that shared storage, and workers come back up with unique IDs. how do I ensure that a worker picks up that data? One of the things with stateful sets is they maintain a persistent identifier across their life cycle, which makes it a little bit easier to deal with.
I think your stateful set idea is a better approach for that. I just haven't dug in to work out how I deal with it in the
we should play around with this, Steve. I think the one other feature that's coming in 3.3, which will also kind of drive a little bit more of this, is source side queuing rather than destination queuing. So we will enable support for spooling to disk on back pressure from any source as opposed to the destination. And the back pressure detection on that is in milliseconds rather than the destination persistent queuing latency today is probably in the seconds type of latency to detect that a destination is down. So we should be, getting around to resolving some of the concerns about data loss, especially from like UDP and ephemeral sources where we end up queuing to disk. So 3.3 is going to have a really great feature around that line. And I think that's also going to put more pressure on us to try to figure out how to manage these more stateful workloads in Kubernetes, because the facility should be there, but I don't know that we have a great like written recommendation. And I think that's something that we probably, can experiment with here on the vendor side. But Ryan, we'd love to hear what your results are looking like as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. Yeah. And I'll touch on, some of the tests that I still have to do with this here in a minute. But yeah, I'd be happy to chat about it. That's cool to hear about the queuing on the source side. One of the things I want to do is expand worker groups out to multiple regions. That might make life a little bit easier for me there, rather than trying to have to do that queuing further downstream. Let's see. So yeah, some other challenges. Kubernetes, if you've messed around with it, it's super challenging there's a lot of moving pieces, but you could say that about a sprawling on-prem deployment. So it's just, in my opinion, it's different than doing on-prem or VM-based bare metal clusters, but there's a lot to learn. And so I'm spending a lot of time and have some level of experience coming into this with Kubernetes, but my team doesn't. And I don't want to be on call every day of the week, holidays, nights, weekends, all of it. And so my team, in my absence, needs to be able to operate the tools at a functional level. They need to be able to understand what's going on. And so one of the important things for me was to automate and document the entire process. Sometimes those are one and the same. So all of our cluster management is in Terraform, and that's how we're deploying the base Kubernetes clusters, and then we're using Argo CD to deploy all the application sets like the logstream leader, the workers, various worker groups. It makes life really easy and repeatable. So there's some things that I don't know yet, and these aren't necessarily specific to Kubernetes, but as we move data around various AZs and various regions, I don't have a great idea of what my costs are going to look like for transit, especially as it goes out to the internet and Splunk Cloud. So that's something, while we can estimate, we don't exactly know what that's going to look like. As you'll see on my diagram here, I write everything to S3. My first route is to copy every event that comes in into S3. I keep the full raw data there. That way I can confidently have a backup of something if I am a little ambitious in my cleanup of data and my reduction, or if we have an issue or something downstream or investigation on the security operations center that really needs that full fidelity data. So got to see what that looks like. But specific to Kubernetes stateful sets in practice, my testing plan here that I've worked through is, I can kill entire nodes and those workers will come back up with their identifier, even across AZs with their EBS disk. And that data is still there and that data flushes out. One thing I do need to test is killing access to Splunk Cloud or to S3 and figuring out what a huge amount of data backing up looks like, and really plan for capacity there. I want to make sure I can handle extended AWS and Splunk Cloud outages, or probably won't break my own things, but maybe I break something, and I need to plan for that as well. And we need to be able to regularly test our disaster plans here. Are we, as the company grows, we're still, even as we deploy right now, we're bringing in more and more data every day as the company grows, and it's kind of a scary amount of data sometimes. So we can't just say, oh, we're going to have stateful sets with pods with 500 gigabyte disks, we need to be constantly evaluating our storage. So this is kind of a high level view of how I've laid things out right now, and this is changing all the time. But I've taken the approach of having multiple different worker groups. I run them as separate deployments in Kubernetes. So every gray box here represents a worker group. And so we've got, I've divided these collectors or worker groups into pool sources. So things that I'm pulling, S3, CrowdStrike, what do they call it? Falcon data replicator, huge amount of data, Kinesis streams, anything that I pull in from a third-party API goes on a dedicated set of workers. And this runs, if you go into Argo CD or a deployment tool, you'll see, Cribl log stream pool group, and that's its own set of workers that get managed over here. Again, runs as a stateful set. And then I have my push sources. This is actually divided into two, but for the sake of simplicity, I've kept it one here. This is your things like, heavy forwarders, universal forwarders, things that are getting pushed to me, HTTP event collectors run on their own stateful set. I divided into two. One is more of a DMZ facing thing for sources coming in from the internet. The other is internal for universal forwarders and such that I don't want to expose directly to the internet. I like to keep those things nice and separated. And then my third or fourth worker group running as a stateful set is my processing group. So these pull and push groups send data over to the processing group and the routing group via TCP JSON. So it's all compressed and encrypted, and I can do all my processing here and send out to my various destinations, S3, Splunk Cloud, and then I have a separate test Splunk Enterprise environment where I onboard new data that runs on Kubernetes as well. So it runs on the same set of worker nodes in the cluster here. Any questions about how I've laid this out, or comments, suggestions, snide remarks?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's very, very typical. I mean, I think it's and I only put a link to my blog post that I put up today about observability lakes, because I think it's really telling, because that is what your S3 bucket is, and I would call people's attention to that, because I think there's going to be a lot more that we're going to be able to do with that data that's sitting in the lake, aside from just replay it. Coming soon, wink, wink, etc. But that's a big area of investment for us, and I'm trying to get everybody aligned around kind of what makes a lake unique and an observability lake unique, and just love seeing that that you're thinking of things the way that we're thinking of things, which is like S3 is the default destination. Everything goes there.
Yeah, I love the idea. And when I first implemented Logstream at my last org, I hadn't really even heard that terminology. We were on Azure, so we use Azure Blob Storage. Contractual and legal requirements required us to keep, I think, 12 months of data on disk in Splunk, and so that was like 4 petabytes of data that we were keeping, compressed in Azure. So we started sending everything to blob storage, and then we could reduce our persistent storage on disk in Splunk to like 3 months, a minimum we needed in ES. So it saved us many, many thousands of dollars per month. And now I hear, folks like you, Clint, I think I heard Ed Bailey talk about it too, about this idea of the data lake. And I really like that. And that's how we're viewing S3 now. It's not just, backup and retention, but it gives us the ability to do a lot more with the data that we're keeping there in the future. We don't just have to be working with data sets that, are still in Splunk and not expired to frozen storage yet. So it's a really, really powerful idea.
Something I really like about that idea as a former practitioner and somebody who had to go beg for budget all the time, is that having that retention off on just individual storage that's really almost dedicated to it gives you a line item to say, my retention costs this much. So, hey, as those retention goals change, that's where the charge goes.
Yeah, that's super helpful. new customer comes in, has this requirement, I can say exactly how much it's going to cost to keep things for 11 years or whatever. Yeah, so that's really what I had to present. And I wanted to make sure we had time to discuss, because I know there were a lot of questions and things that folks had. I don't know if any of those folks joined today, but I'm happy to discuss other challenges in detail, or I'm always available on the community Slack as well if anybody wants to talk about all things Kubernetes. Yeah.
So fun way to play with this. Everybody who works at Cribl is going to know what I'm talking about, because I've been playing with my Raspberry Pi Kubernetes cluster over the weekend. And so I have a little 4-node Raspberry Pi cluster that running Kubernetes on bare metal. It's been an interesting experience. Nothing quite works right, and things break enough that you have to really get down and dirty with things like DNS and kubelet and how it's configured, and I've had enough problems that I've ended up diving into the gory details of Kubernetes, but it's actually quite effective. I can saturate my home gigabit internet connection with HTTP traffic coming out of my 4 little Raspberry Pis. And I'm going to have to upgrade my home network to 10 gigabits so that I can actually cap the CPU on my little 4-node cluster, because it's just a little static web server, right? So there's nothing. It's doing no work to basically serve a request. But if you go to clintsharp.com, that is served off of a Raspberry Pi sitting at my house. And there's a little Linux VPS that has a port forward that goes through a VPN that heads into my house back and forth. But a pretty fun little project. And the whole reason, and I'm actually going to blog about this on my personal blog, like how I put all this together and what all steps I took. The whole reason to do all of this, by the way, is just stupid home lab stuff, because I wanted to be able to have some reason to run a new product that we're working on that kind of runs in Kubernetes. And I've been looking for some motivation to go do that. But I would highly recommend, if people are into kind of the home lab stuff. I think I spent maybe like $500-600 putting it together. And it just sits there and runs, and it's a cool little fun project.
Yeah, that's really cool. I have something similar in VMware running at home, but I think it's awesome that you all are very interested in deep diving, on all the stuff to see how your product runs. It gives me a lot of confidence as a customer, running in what sometimes seems like the edge here of the unknown, that you all are taking this seriously. So that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, one of our other guys, the only downside of that is he tells me I'm going to blow through a bunch of SD cards. I haven't yet, but apparently when he was running some workloads, that was the problem he was having. But the nice thing is we have ARM64 support for everything now, so you can run, and all the new Raspberry Pi 3s are all ARM64, so you can just run stock bits on them, and it's pretty cool.
I saw some folks come off mute like they had questions. Don't be shy.
Yeah, talk to us.
Seriously. I have another question while people are waiting to, be less shy. Can you let me know if you got an email reminder to attend this user group meeting? Because we sent out a whole bunch and I'm not sure it's working. I want to make sure it's working. So
I can tell you I did not get one.
You did not get one. This would have been a result of, at some point in the past, registering for user group meeting notifications on our website. So if you never did that, you would probably not get an email. But if you did do that and got an email, I'd like to know about it.
I did receive an email. It ended up shuffled into my bulk mail, so I didn't see it until I just searched for it just now. But I did receive one. Okay,
that's what I was wondering was happening. Okay, thank you. Back to Kubernetes. Thanks.
So one thing I didn't outline in this, I have a separate diagram that kind of goes into the deployment details internally. We are using, starting to work with the GitOps features. I'm a big fan of that. Actually, we have our base configuration deployed to a testing branch. All of the configuration that is needed to make this work. So as you spin up a new cluster or a new leader deployment, it starts working automatically with no intervention from anyone. It gets its SSH keys, tokens, everything it needs is all automatically provisioned. And so we can spin up those ephemeral dev environments and things just work. And then we can push to test, we can push to prod without actually ever having to, have 4 browser tabs spread open and copy the pipeline, every time. So it works really well in this kind of environment.
Since you mentioned the GitOps feature set, there's a new sandbox out there that we haven't started promoting yet, but there's a GitOps sandbox in the sandbox environment now. So would love people to play with it and give me any feedback on what's missing. I've already got a couple things I need to, like minor tweaks I need to fix, but always looking for feedback on those tools.
So
I do have a question for the Cribl folks.
Yeah.
So I started off using the Helm charts and have since kind of gone out of my own here, especially doing some custom stuff like stateful sets and bootstrapping workers with secrets and things. The Helm charts are in a good place, but there is some development work and expansion I think could be done. What's the future look like as far as working on issues, or do you accept outside contributions, that sort of thing?
We do. So please, Steve, is that have a license file in there, or is it Apache license?
I believe it is Apache license. If not, I should go fix that. But yeah, we do absolutely accept issues. We accept PRs. Another thing that's kind of going on that, so I built the Helm charts, the original Helm charts, and I've been maintaining them. One of my complaints about them is they're not necessarily all that integrated with the product. So one thing that's very positive is the product team is going to be taking over the maintenance of those Helm charts. We're working on that transition right now. So it's been a little, like, development has been a little stagnated as we've kind of started that process, but I expect we'll pick back up. Throw in issues where you want to see things happen. I'll help get those prioritized with that team as they move forward on the charts.
Awesome. That's exactly what I was looking for. I was hopeful that there was a longer term plan to make sure these things stay maintained. And to be clear, they work really well, and I've used them up until here recently, with no trouble. So as I started doing more random customized things, I had to use customized patches or just completely fork the chart. But yeah, they do really work really well for most use cases.
We accept PRs. In fact, I was working on them last night, and I'm about to put in a PR for a couple of things that aren't working for me. So absolutely happy to take your contributions.
Yeah, for sure.
Rich, you had a question.
No, I had a comment. You're very red back there.
I'm in a phone booth in the office today, and for whatever reason, it's very orange.
Orange.
It just is.
All right. Do we have any other questions or talking to do for a bit? Fact. I'm going to turn off my thing because I think we're getting close to the magic and wonderful time of swag.
Swag raffle.
Swag raffle. Hang on, I got to do this because
Good word. Swag raffle.
Swag raffle.
Like, it's like a weird D&D monster. Also, I'm looking at my window right now at the Puget Sound, and there's a submarine right outside. Like,
oh, is there? That's cool.
Right
and
outside.
Look at your background. Like, it's totally that era of the submarine stuff.
Seriously, I feel like I'm in the right place.
I mean, I could turn mine around and you could like watch people fly by and stuff.
I don't think I can make this work.
Is it the Russians, you think, or?
Well, there's a bunch of Coast Guard boats all around. They seem pretty excited. I don't know.
They gave up on trolling the Irish fishermen and decided to come to your neck of the woods.
Oh, Clint is now not in his. You're very orange, but in your office.
Uh-huh.
I like it.
I'm like an Oompa Loompa or something.
Surprisingly so. Did you ever perfect those dance moves you were going to show us one day?
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, I have a video. Hold on.
Have we extended that emoji out to the community, Pi?
Well, there's multiple emojis now, but we should probably put both of them in there.
I was really tempted to use one of those emojis to reply to you on Twitter at one point, Clint, and I wasn't sure whether.
Oh, sure. You know, whatever.
Okay with that.
So we have a couple of different emojis. We have me dancing emoji. We also have a me celebrating another deal emoji that I did over on fiscal year end day, which looks more like,
We also have Rage Clint, which is fun too.
Oh, there's Rage Clint. That's from Splunk days.
That's from the Splunk Slack. Yeah, it's
yeah.
still
That was Michael Wild recorded that one.
We need more of that sort of thing, and not just Clint. You know,
other people would be fine too. People just seem to really like recording me doing things and then turning it into GIFs. Like they do it on the company all hands and stuff. And then the other thing, so we have one guy that works here though. This is a really good trick. He likes to record people on Zoom and then make that his video. So he shows up as other people and then he puts them on loop. So he'll just sit there as like somebody else. It is fucking hysterical. Highly recommend. Because Zoom's like, I can change my name to Rich right now.
You could.
And I can get a little video of you going like this, you know?
Yeah, I do this.
And I'm just Rich on every call after then.
Yeah. I have a friend who does this, except that it's a video of himself. Like he'll get up and walk around in his office and then sit back down. And so he'll sit there in front of his video. And then suddenly there's two of him in his office.
There was somebody a couple of year or two ago who tried to see how long he could last by simply not actually being in any of the meetings, but just having a video of himself and having canned responses or something. I don't remember what it was, but it was pretty funny. He made it a whole week.
We're doing that right now.
Hey, remote work is interesting, man. I know a guy who currently is a security engineer at 3 public companies.
So we've been hearing a lot of stories about that sort of thing lately. Like if you can do the work, I'm all for it.
He's been doing it for 6 years and he is a top performer on every team that he is on at the same time. That tells you how little people actually work in most corporate jobs. Is that like he literally works like 10 hours a week in most of his jobs and he outperforms the other people working 40.
A 30x engineer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, how do you get anything done? But I guess it's mostly just waiting.
So the hardest part about his life is scheduling, just to make sure that he doesn't get scheduled into multiple Scrum meetings or whatever. But the vast majority of work in corporate life is waiting on somebody else. So he just chooses to take that time waiting, like to actually work another job.
That's funny.
Works for me.
He's basically developed a work queue system for himself. It sounds like.
Oh, he invests heavily in tooling. He's got all this automation for like moving emails around and calendar invites around, and like he's got it all down. He's really good. Yeah, he's going to retire at like 45. He's making like $500,000 plus a year.
I'm a fan of that approach. If you can do it right, you should totally do it.
All right.
Oh,
Back to
I
the
see
Zoom
Rich's
hack.
hand. Oh my God. Okay. Oh, dice. All right. So we have currently, let's see. Somebody just logged off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's easy. A D10.
10. It's a D10.
For
All right.
the swag. And of course, Ryan, we will send you something for your nice.
We have a 7.
7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's John Bornstein. Are you still there? You're there.
Yay.
Hey. Hello there.
He doesn't need anything.
He doesn't need anything? Oh.
Nah. John likes swag. John's my co-security engineer here at Spy Cloud.
Okay. Well, that would make it easy. You're all working remotely, right? So I can't send it all to the same office. But please DM me your mailing address and I will send you a package.
Oh, all right. That sounds great.
Yeah, that shouldn't take too terribly long if you're in the US. It's when we have to ship things to like XPAC is aware. Like we send things to Germany, it takes a while.
Yep, I'm in Austin, Texas.
In Austin, great. Hey, shiny. Then let's do this one more time.
Oh, cool. I'm ready. Another 10.
Another 10?
You just take my word for it. I promise I won't.
Yeah, okay.
No. 1.
1? Well, that's you.
Well, I don't need anything. Unless you're going to send me a shirt so I can stop wearing my NASA shirt for these things.
I'll send you a shirt. Okay, yeah. And please, John, also send me tell me what t-shirt size you are in your DM.
Cool, we'll do.
All right. Same, Rich. Send me your t-shirt size. I'm not guessing. I'm going to guess because I'm terrible at that.
Right. I think I remember some comedian saying something amazingly brilliant, which was also with regards to pregnant ladies. Like, I never make that assumption unless there's a baby coming out right then.
Yeah. And if you're in the room when that's happening, you're probably not.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably already
not
not
making an assumption at that point.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just, I don't make that assumption. And I'm like, that's good words to live by because, the rare time you get that wrong, that's pretty bad.
Well, the failure mode is really bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Low likelihood, high impact.
Exactly.
Ah, you DM'd me on here. I've never had anybody do that, but I can definitely work with that.
Well, that's cool. Should we all DM you inside the Zoom then?
Well, it's
No.
mostly I have to copy paste it because I'm not going to have it later.
I think actually you still have mine, so whatever.
I probably do, yeah.
I mean, since you guys, paid for Slack right up front.
Oh, I need a zip code there, John.
Oh, all right. Here you go.
Put 4 down, see what happens.
Just make up any 5-digit number. See what happens.
All right, I've got it. Thank you. Cool. And something else. I was going to remind everybody that tomorrow there is office hours at 11 a.m. Pacific.
Yes. So where do we go to sign up for the actual alerts about these things? Because that would be useful. I've got them on my calendar, but I sometimes set up my own notifications. Do you have one set up for the office hours too?
I don't like we don't have email reminders for that, but we could try and work on that. I wonder if there's some way we could use Slack to notify people who sign up for it. You could just use the /remind function.
/remind, I know.
And then be in control of your own destiny. Because I don't want people to get mad when they forget that they asked me to send them email, and that does happen a lot.
This is true. Yeah. I understand that one.
Yes,
that's
the
a good
remind
idea.
function is an awesome thing in Slack. If
Really
you've not
is.
used it, I highly recommend trying it out. It is my to-do list.
Oh, cool. Look at that user group email sign up. Perfect.
But yeah, you can sign up for the user group, and then theoretically you will get an email, although it sounds like some of them went to spam this past time. Every time we have a user group meeting.
I'm going to throw that in here and say,
thank you.
User group.
Aaron, silent, but super helpful.
Yes, and I did have at least one story about a red light district that I put in there, so feel free to read it. It involves mothers in red light districts.
Okay. I was like, that's not where Clint is.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. That is what I wanted to point out is, yes, the office hours is tomorrow. Oh, and I wanted to look up what it's going to be about. Office hours is going to be the basics of Logstream and Kafka, a detailed analysis of Kafka and use cases. So,
really? Is
yes.
this somebody going to tell us what Kafka even is?
I bet you could ask.
That might be a good
Renan is
question.
pretty friendly. So
excellent. That's good. I was wondering, how close on topic do you guys stay? Are you usually pretty good with that? I mean, like our user group meetings, we usually stay fairly well on topic,
Well, the whole point of the office hours is that you should be able to ask whatever it is you want to ask about. Like there's a topic that they're going to talk about, but if people have a ton of questions to begin with, it can just go off the rails and stay off the rails. That's totally fine.
Sure. Okay. No, that sounds
good. If you
good.
have a bunch of questions, just go for it.
All right. Well, I believe we've come to the end of our appointed time.
All right. Oh, I have a one-on-one.
We must now be leaving you. Please join us again next month. I believe is it the second Tuesday?
It is the second Tuesday of the month. Yes.
Second Tuesday of the month. Same bat time, same bat channel.
All right. Find out what we're going to be talking about.
Exactly.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Rich.
All right.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
me.
Pi. Have a great day, everybody.